A disgraceful performance. They're okay in winning cups, doesn't matter. Their standards have been set long ago and we're not going to accept that from any Aberdeen team. There's no way can we take any glory from it.
Can you give a reason for the disappointing performance then?
Couldn't. If you could open up their minds, you'd be able to find out.
Before he changed English football with Manchester United, Alex Ferguson dominated the Scottish game with Aberdeen. They were already a good team when Fergie took over, but he tightened up the defence, making them much tougher to beat. Winning 3 league titles, 4 Scottish Cups and the League Cup in his 8 full seasons with the Dons. Not to mention the UEFA Cup Winners' Cup, where Aberdeen beat Bayern Munich on the way to the final, where they overcame Real Madrid.
Honestly, it's just hit me. It's the greatest moment of my life. But I'll tell you, it's a magnificent performance.
Before winning the Super Cup against European champions Hamburg just months later.
The amazing response has been from managers and directors in England.
In England?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, we have one here from Bob Paisley, Liverpool, which is marvellous, you know. Congratulations, you've done us proud.
His time at Aberdeen is considered by many to be his greatest achievement, and one day I'll do a full video on it. However, it was what Ferguson built at his next club that would go on to define his legacy. Hello, my name is Gareth from Eno Football, and this is how Sir Alex Ferguson conquered English football.
The impossible dream made possible by the greatest British manager ever, Sir Alex Ferguson.
On November 6, 1986, Manchester United unveiled their new manager, Alex Ferguson, who steadied the Red Devils, sat in 19th to a respectable 11th place finish. But don't get it twisted, this was not a mid-table club at the time. It was a club that had consistently finished in the top 4 and won 2 FA Cups in the 5 seasons prior. Fergie then made 2 of his most important signings ever in Steve Bruce and Brian McClair, guiding United to a 2nd place finish in 1987-88. However, things then went downhill. Despite re-signing Mark Hughes from Barcelona, Man United regressed to an 11th place finish in 1989 as questions were raised about Ferguson's place as manager. In the 89-90 season, pressure rose as Fergie spent a staggering £8 million on the likes of Paul Ince and Gary Pallister. By early January, United were sat in 15th place, and it was rumoured that if Fergie didn't win the FA Cup, he would be sacked. Mark Robins scored the winner in the 3rd round against Nottingham Forest, considered by many to be the goal that saved Fergie's job. But in the 4th round, United met Hereford and struggled against the 4th division side.
Hemming. Hughes. Again, a lovely turn by the Welsh international. Oh, it's Duxbury, the captain. Is he going to do the captain's job? He is. Clayton Blackmore. And in the end...
Until the 86th minute, where Clayton Blackmore saved Fergie's blushes. Brian McClair scored winners against Newcastle and Sheffield United before Mark Robins scored the winner against Oldham in the semi-finals. Crystal Palace's greatest ever team awaited in the final, where a 3-3 draw meant a replay. With Man United finishing 13th in the league, Fergie needed a win. And thanks to Lee Martin, who scored in a 1-0 victory, Alex Ferguson won his first trophy in English football and saved his job in the process. And from here, things improved. Dennis Irwin and Andrei Konchelskis joined in the summer of 1990 as Fergie guided United to a 6th place finish whilst also winning the UEFA Cup Winners' Cup. Then, in 91-92, Fergie signed Peter Schmeichel as United won the League Cup and challenged Leeds United for the title. And honestly, they would have won it if not for a capitulation at the end of the season. But 1992 was the start of a new era for English football, as the Premier League had its debut year, and Fergie had plans to make this a new beginning for Manchester United as well. Having come so close to winning the title in 1992, Alex Ferguson wanted to make a statement and sign Alan Shearer. However, the Geordie striker chose Jack Walker's millions at Blackburn instead, so United had to pivot and sign promising striker Dion Dublin for £1 million from Cambridge. However, a poor start to the season got worse when just 6 games in, Dublin broke his leg. Fergie's new signing was out for the year. But through an unrelated conversation, Man United learned that arch rivals Leeds United were willing to sell Eric Cantona. And just a few days later, the footballing world was rocked by United unveiling the French forward for a transfer of £1.2 million. Ferguson now had the final piece in a team built in his vision, and the title charge was on. Blackburn, Aston Villa and Norwich were Man United's main title rivals, with the top spot interchanging between the 4 teams. Blackburn were the first to fall away as Alan Shearer was injured and ruled out for the season. Whilst a 3-1 victory for Man United against Norwich changed the momentum for both sides as the Canaries only won 2 of their remaining 5 matches. Meanwhile, United's next game was a historic match against Sheffield Wednesday. After the referee was injured, his replacement immediately gave Wednesday a penalty, which John Sheridan scored. But Fergie's success at United was in large part due to the never say die attitude that he instilled in his players. And what happened next was arguably the beginning of Fergie time. United desperately pushed for an equaliser, which Steve Bruce scored in the 86th minute, before a 97th minute winner arrived, courtesy of a Gary Pallister cross and a Steve Bruce finish. This victory put Man United top and gave them the momentum to win all 5 of their remaining matches, beating out Aston Villa, who finished second. The season was capped off by a goal from captain Brian Robson, who had spent the season being phased out by Ryan Giggs, scoring the winner against Wimbledon. A perfect way for Man United to conclude their first title-winning season in 26 years. Nobody had retained the title in England since Liverpool 10 years prior, but Alex Ferguson was set on building a dynasty. Signing Roy Keane for a record transfer of £3.7 million in the summer of 1993, whilst United dominated in a way that was reminiscent of their rivals. However, as good as this season was, there was one dark cloud.
But the glory of the past few months has been tinged with an unbelievable sadness. The death of Sir Matt Busby, the man who built Manchester United, developing some of the greatest players ever.
We were quite happy to see him just relax and enjoy himself when he came to Old Trafford during the day and he was smoking his pipe, and we'll miss that because even when you come up the stairs some days and you knew he was in the building because you could smell the pipe, you know, it was good.
But as one legend passed, it felt like perhaps his heir had arrived. In 1994, Fergie's Red Devils became the first English team to get over 90 points, winning the FA Cup in the process. Coming so close to a domestic quadruple, if not for losing the League Cup final to Aston Villa. Fergie had proven that his first title was no fluke, cementing United as the team to beat in English football. And beaten they were in the very next year. After an average start to the season, Fergie broke the British transfer record again in January, signing Andy Cole from Newcastle in a transfer valued at £7 million in total, with Keith Gillespie going the other way. However, this wasn't enough to win the title because, well,
Eric Cantona has been officially charged by the Football Association with misconduct and bringing the game into disrepute. The FA described last night's incident at Crystal Palace, in which Cantona kicked a supporter, as a stain on our game.
When the seagulls follow the trawler, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
Cantona was banned for 8 months, which included the rest of the season and the start of the next. And despite doing the double over Kenny Dalglish's Blackburn, the Rovers were crowned champions of England as Man United failed to snatch the title away on the final day, losing out by a single point. And to make matters worse, United lost the FA Cup final to Everton. As good as they were, it wasn't good enough for Alex Ferguson, who made huge overhauls to the squad in the next season. In the summer of 1995, Paul Ince, Andrei Kanchelskis and Mark Hughes were all sold as Fergie made the class of 1992 key players. A 3-1 defeat to Aston Villa on the opening day sparked Match of the Day pundit Alan Hansen to write United off, saying,
"3 players have departed. The trick is always buy when you're strong. So he needs to buy players. You can't win anything with kids."
Fergie's kids, inspired by the return of Eric Cantona, then went 10 games unbeaten. However, they failed to keep up with Kevin Keegan's Newcastle, who ran into a 12-point lead with just 15 games to go. Whilst Newcastle were dubbed the entertainers, Fergie's kids were a lot more conservative, winning a lot of their games by a 1-goal margin. But the main hero for Man United really was Eric Cantona, who had one of the most clutch Premier League seasons in history. Despite missing the first 7 games through suspension, his goal contributions directly led to 24 points gained, with an incredible 7 goals and 5 assists in the final 10 matches. Fergie was a mind games mastermind, and his needling of Kevin Keegan throughout the season was perhaps the greatest example of this.
Of course, when they come to Newcastle, you wait to see the difference.
And it worked a treat, as with only 2 games remaining, Keegan exploded.
Alex Ferguson a tape of this game, haven't you? Isn't that what he asked for? But that's part and parcel of the psychological battle, Kevin. No, that's when you do that with footballers, like he said about Leeds, and when you do things like that about a man like Stuart Pearce, I've kept really quiet, but I'll tell you something, he went down in my estimation when he said that. We're still fighting for this title, and he's got to go to Middlesbrough and get something, and I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
Newcastle failed to win their remaining 2 games, crumbling under the pressure, whilst United beat Middlesbrough 3-0 to clinch the title.
Did the players feel when you were 12 points behind a few months ago that you could still come back and win this title?
No, we thought it was all over, really. No, we kept plugging away, and we always knew Newcastle would slip up, and luckily enough they did, and we just kept plugging away, and you know, as I said, I think we definitely deserved it. You know, the young lads have come in and been absolutely fantastic, and it's great for the club.
Eric Cantona also scored the winner against Liverpool in the FA Cup final as Alex Ferguson celebrated yet another double-winning season.
Yeah, it's all forgiven, but of course we're back here for the Charity Shield, so it'll all start again then.
After securing his second league and cup double, Ferguson looked abroad for 2 of his most underrated signings. Ronnie Johnson replaced the outgoing Steve Bruce, whilst Ole Gunnar Solskjaer made an immediate impact as United's top scorer. Newcastle made a huge statement, bringing Alan Shearer home for a record fee, but despite winning 8 of their opening 10 matches, things went south for the Magpies as Kevin Keegan struggled with his confidence as manager before leaving in January. New challenges arose in Arsenal and Liverpool, but in the end, it was a fairly easy title for Alex Ferguson to win. Despite it being one of his worst seasons, Fergie had won his 5th title in 6 years. And at the end of that season, Eric Cantona shocked the world with the announcement of his retirement, aged just 30, leaving his manager without his star player. Alex Ferguson had conquered and dominated English football, making Manchester United the team to beat once again. However, this was just the start of the story, because now it was time for the English game to evolve, with more continental ideas coming in. And Ferguson still had plenty to accomplish. Having fallen short in the Champions League, it was time for the Red Devils to conquer Europe. But I will save that for my videos about how Arsene Wenger changed English football and how Fergie eventually conquered Europe. Those are just 2 of plenty of other videos I'm going to be making on this channel in the coming months, so make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss out. But for now, thank you so much for watching this video. As always, any support in terms of liking the video and sharing it is greatly appreciated, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments.